right, let's go.
You're gonna be fine.
Hey guys.
Hey, how are you?
Brother, I haven't seen you in. Yeah, this is Dan DeWalt. Dan DeWalt's a delegate. Here's Cindy Sheehan.
Hi, Cindy. Gordy Baldwin.
He's the news director of this great station. Unless you got demoted or
I, for one, feel almost impotent at times, despite being a loudmouth, lefty, opinionated guy and working hard, making the calls and doing the do, that it's astonishing to me that these many years later, Cindy, your example is perfect. You've been doing and doing and doing and doing to the point of making yourself sick, to the point of, and it almost sometimes feels so disempowering because they seem to just keep rolling over everything. What keeps the spark rolling for you guys touring around Vermont, thinking hopeful thoughts about impeachment, and not just going, screw it, let's just go home? Answer at will.
I guess maybe I can say that I have been very much thinking these things for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And being, having recently moved to Vermont, it's really amazing, I think, how things have worked out since the election. When it was the election time in November, I was living in Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, there, Jim Webb, it was very tight. I was up all night long waiting to see if he was going to win. I was doing MoveOn.org, calling to get the vote out.
Sure.
And it was so tight that when he won and I was down in Richmond, I thought that was going to be everything. I thought that was going to be the moment that things were finally going to change. And then, I had applied for jobs around, and I applied specifically for the job in Vermont because I really wanted to get back up to the Northeast. And by the time I got up here, just the beginning of the year, and I heard on the news that George Bush was sending more troops to Iraq, that instant, I felt incredibly crushed. But that was the moment that when I heard that Peace and Justice Center of Vermont was going to be busing people down to D.C. for the March on D.C. in January, that I was going to be on one of those buses. And lo and behold, they were all filled. And I was so fortunate that they were able to get another bus because, I was able to go down to D.C. and kind of really experience the power that it does give you to feel like maybe, and to see so many people. There were so many people there that just experiences like that make me think that there is hope. And that's where I met Matt and Drew, and it was really kind of a very awesome moment because, I went over I knew that there were veterans setting up a table over in the far left corner up towards the front, and so I went over there and I kind of introduced myself to people, and they were like, hey, Matt, Drew, there's another Vermont veteran.
Nice.
And so we kind of met there.
Can I assume you've met Liam Madden at some point?
I have not met him yet.
Oh, good guy.
Met Liam.
Yeah, good guy. We've had him on the program a few times. He's from very close to here.
Yeah.
And very articulate, very impassioned, and also, obviously of like mind.
But just having met them, it really, any veteran who feels like, any soldier who feels like they are the only person who thinks this, I just want them all to know that they are not alone, and that joining an organization like IVAW or, Vietnam vets or any vets, Veterans for Peace, that it feels really good to feel like maybe you are making a difference for the better.
That's kind of, and I want, Cindy, I want each of you to take a shot at the same question, but this is what gets me as a person, not even necessarily as a politically activated or aware person. When you're up against such a weight and such a seemingly well-entrenched counterpower, in other words, an administration and this culture that is so not ready to hear what you have to say, you keep, in a Sisyphusian way, keep plugging and plugging and plugging and plugging. I'm sure there are days when you just want to put your head down and go, screw it, I'm going home. But you don't. You're here. You're at another radio station doing another freaking interview. And you guys are just getting new to this, so there's still some excitement to that.
Right.
I know you're burned on this. You got to be at this point. Yet you keep going. Where do you find that peace inside? And in addition to that, if you wouldn't mind answering, do you actually think this will move towards impeachment?
Okay, actually I never think, screw it, I'm going to go home. You know, I just am the most optimistic, hopeful, positive person. But how can we do it? You know, there's people in Iraq who are suffering so terribly. Our soldiers are suffering. They don't have a voice. You know, how can we give up? How can we just say, oh, you know, people of Iraq, we're tired, our throat hurts, you know, they never feed us. Yeah, so how can we just say, you know, we're sorry, we're going to give up? You know, and we can't do that. And when George Bush announced a troop surge, I announced a peace surge. You know, everything they do, we just have to work harder. And if I didn't think that these people could be impeached, I wouldn't be here in Vermont. I would be, you know, someplace else where it's warmer and where I can get food. And
you don't eat Vermont food, I'm telling you.
And so
I'm kidding.
And I think that really what we're doing here, what I do all over the world, is to inspire people, call them to action, call them to do the same thing. And you know, there's not very many people who can keep up the level of activity that I keep up. I have a lot of support. I have a wonderful family. I have a lot of good friends who help me along the way. But everybody can do something, and everybody can do more than they're doing right now.
Amen.
So, and if everybody did just a little bit more than they're doing right now, it would make our jobs a lot easier. But impeachment is the will of the people. Like I said, I go all over, and their question isn't, can he be impeached? It's, why hasn't he been impeached?
That's been mine all along.
So this has to be, you know, a grassroots movement coming from the people, and we're really counting on Vermont to lead the way. And John Conyers has said it has to come from the people. It has to come from the people. So we have to really focus. Like your little joke here is really cute. We have to focus, but it's so sad, you know, because it's so true about the Democrats. Is we have to focus on them now and not let them think that, oh, just because they're Democrats, we're going to let them slide by. You know, they're the ones that can solve the problem of Iraq and solve the problem of George Bush, and we, the people, have to give them the courage to do that.
Yeah, I think that's the big piece, is developing the groundswell where they can't avoid it. You can't not notice. And Drew, I want to give you a chance Matt, forgive me. I want to give you a chance to respond to that as well. And if you could also tuck into that, you know, you're relatively new to this phenomenon of being, I'm assuming, new to the phenomenon of being an activist. Talk a little bit about what makes you not just want to go into a safer place where you can just be quiet and enjoy your life.
Well, for me, it hasn't felt like a choice. It's felt like an obligation, an absolute moral obligation. I feel as a veteran like I have to bear witness to the things that I have seen. And you're not going to get the true story when you watch Fox News. You're not going to get it in NPR, unfortunately. And the carnage is it's hard to conceive, and yet it's very real, and it's happening on a daily basis. And it's actually my only surprise is that more veterans are not coming out, and they are, and our organization is growing by the day. But to me, it was so imperative immediately. You know, I got back from Iraq, and I just realized the level I was working on was the wrong level. I was like within my battalion. This is right after the invasion. I got back, you know, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to go on 60 Minutes, and I'm going to blow the lid off of everything, and I'm going to tell the world how they sent me in with no body armor, and how, you know, my machine gun didn't even, you know, have a ring mount on it, and how, you know, they didn't give me this, they didn't give me that. I saw Marines run out of food. You know, they told me to bury my humanitarian rations. I had this huge laundry list of all these things, and
yeah, but where were you? Were you the father to Anna Nicole Smith? I think that's what we really want to know.
Yeah. And you know, these issues. This is you know, from day one, and it's 2 years later, the body armor issue started coming to light. but there I was trying to fight within my own battalion. I was still active duty, and just getting nowhere.
Let's talk, John. I want you to join in the conversation. You're uncharacteristically quiet over there. John Nichols joining the conversation.
Always quiet when I listen to Matt. I think that's the amazing thing about this tour, because Cindy and I came here to talk about impeachment. We think it's very, very important, and we think Vermont's ground zero. We think this is the place where it will either happen or not, very bluntly. But we've had this remarkable experience the last few days of being with Matt and Adrian and one of their comrades, Drew, and it has, for me at least, driven home why we're doing this, because you can't delink impeachment from peace. There's no way you can delink it. Even if Congress were to vote many, many different bills on, changing the authorization for war, on, telling Bush you don't like the surge, something like that, he can either dismiss them or veto them. The fact of the matter is he's already funded the war, for months, years perhaps, into the future. They have huge amounts of money put aside for this. So even concepts of defunding become difficult with this man. And so the reality is that we come back to this man and we look at it and say, what are we going to do? If we want this war to end, we end it by impeaching him. And some people say, well, Bush is going to be gone soon. He'll be gone in a year and a half, a little over that. And that seems to some people like not very long, but understand this. Roughly, an Iraqi is killed every 10 minutes. An American is killed every 10 hours. We spend $2 billion in Iraq every 10 days. $2 billion that could go to health care, education, housing, or rebuilding Iraq. So, to me, this is a long time, a year and a half. Letting George Bush sit in office and govern, or misgovern as he has, for that amount of time is unacceptable. And Matt and Adrian and Drew and Cindy, of course, have driven that home to me more, and I hope they've driven it home to Vermonters. This is the place. There's a lot of Bush presidency ahead of us. Tuesday, Vermonters will make the choice whether they want this man to serve until January 20th, 2009, and keep his war that whole time, or whether they want to end it.
And talk a little bit about Vermont. Any of you, again, in no particular order. And Dan, if you want to throw in on this too. If you want to talk about what I know. You too, uncharacteristically quiet. What's it been like the last couple of days up and down the state? And what kind of reception, and positive and negative, what have people been like to you all?
Well, if you really, my friends outside of Vermont have been emailing going, well, we're sorry you're having such a hard time in Vermont, Cindy. And I'm like, I am? Well, how am I having such a hard time in Vermont? And they said, the media's not telling the whole story again, huh? So all they're focusing on is like at the State House where the other two Gold Star mothers mirrored me instead of addressing the issue. And but it's been an overwhelmingly positive response. But all the negative responses have been focused on me. Like I'm the only one in the bus, or like I'm the only one in the country that believes the same thing that 70% of the rest of the country believes.
Yeah.
So, but the response has been great. We've spoken to thousands of people, and we've had a handful of people who have been counter-protesting us. Except for the fact that we're not getting hot food.
This is a reflection on Dan DeWalt.
He hasn't eaten since the election.
The welcome has been extraordinarily warm and loving and supportive, and I find Vermont very engaged and very aware and educated on the issues.
Can I ask you, again, I'm trying to have this conversation be even more on the personal side. The politics is unavoidable, but I think you get a lot of canned interviews, so I'm going to hopefully have a different one with you. But talk to me a little bit about the emotional piece of having yourself flanked by comrades of your son, Casey, and what it feels like to have stand-ins, so to speak. He'd be here, and you know it.
Well, I have been working with Iraq Veterans Against the War since I started doing this, way before I went to Camp Casey in Crawford. And they all call me Mom, and, we have really good relationships. And it helps a lot. And I hope that if Casey came home, he would have joined the organization. And I think he might have. He didn't want to go over there, and he said he didn't want to kill people. But I got a wonderful email from a guy from Morocco. Even before I went to Camp Casey, he, had been reading what I was writing and listening to my speeches and stuff. And it was right after I testified for John Conyers at the Downing Street memo hearings. He said, "Cindy, you may have lost a son, but you have gained millions of sons." So it is, but, there could be a billion other sons and daughters, and it couldn't replace Casey. But it helps a lot. It helps a lot. And I think what they're doing is going to help them heal. And Camp Casey has been a haven for Vietnam vets and Iraq vets. That, as I said, the healing has been, extraordinary, and I think that it's going to help them heal in the long run, and it's helping me, working with them, helps me.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How about the healing for you? Because and again, you yourself, I'm sure after a long time of doing this, you must have hit your own exhaustion wall from time to time. But from what it sounds like, you get revitalized by moments like a weekend like this, coming up and see people of like mind, activated, agitated, and moving in that direction. And so
to see all the children that have come out, we're all doing this for the children, really. Last night a handicapped young woman gave me a picture she had drawn. That really keeps me going. All the hugs and the support and the love and seeing the babies. Yeah. I really want the babies to have a world that's sustainable and filled with peace.
Yep, I got a 12-year-old standing behind me. I'm hoping the same thing for him as well. Okay, so we're quickly running out of time. I know you guys have to go try to find hot food somewhere.
No, actually, we have to go slave through another event.
Do you really?
Yeah, we don't get hot food.
Let me just add one thing that we've joked a little about Dan DeWalt here, but the reason that we're here really, and folks here in this area know Dan real well, but people should know folks around America know Dan real well, and folks around the world. And I know I'm here because of Dan DeWalt. I'm here because in this whole mess, there was one guy who decided to write the articles of impeachment and put them down at a town meeting last year, and I think it was fundamental. I think it shifted the discussion about impeachment in all sorts of ways. So I'm here because of Dan, and we do joke about him because he doesn't feed us. But part of the joke is also that he's taken us to 10 towns.
He keeps the edge on.
Yeah, he does. He's taken us to 10 towns in 48 hours, and he's doing it because he wants Vermonters to know, I think maybe, that there are a lot of people watching Vermont, and a lot of people counting on Vermont on Tuesday. So.
Yeah, and if we want to talk about the lack of sleep, I can mention other names.
Oh, yeah. All right, where to from you? I know you're going over to the high school, too, here in Brattleboro, and then that's it. And then, but conceptually, metaphorically, where to after this weekend? Here comes town meeting Tuesday. Let's assume it goes just like you hoped around the state. What then?
Town meeting will be the tipping point to put the Vermont legislature on the spot. Right now, the Vermont legislature is sitting on an impeachment resolution. They don't want to move it. Yeah. Thanks to Gay Symington, thanks to Bernie Sanders, thanks to Pat Leahy, thanks to the Democratic National Committee and Nancy Pelosi.
Give me 30 seconds on why.
Because
why?
They have made the unconscionable decision to make a political calculation out of this. And then, keeping with the Democratic Party tradition of late, they made the wrong calculation about what will win an election. So not only are they immoral in their calculations, they're foolish. So we're going to show them, number one, that they can't make a political calculation out of something which is moral and constitutional, and number two, we're going to show that they're going to lose these elections if they continue to act like this.
And let me add that the power lies in the people and not in the legislature.
Absolutely.
And if they're not aware of that, we'll kick them in the shin until they notice us. Right. All right, great. Well, I'll let you guys go get some food, but just let me, on behalf of whoever I stand for, and I don't know if that's more than one person, but I'm sure, let's assume it is, thanks for doing without, and thanks for doing what you do and moving about, and thanks to Dan for making it all go on. But it wouldn't go on if everybody wasn't of like mind and passion. And I'm like you. I wouldn't have had a kid if I didn't think the world would be worth inheriting, and it wouldn't be if we weren't doing stuff.
Absolutely.
So
Awesome.
thanks
Thank you, and thanks to Vermont, too.
Sure.
And thanks to the Yellow Rose of Texas, driven by Jim Goodenow, who's taken us across the entire state of Vermont, including in a friggin' blizzard. And the man's from Texas.
Stuff Texas, right? All right, well, thanks, you guys. Now get out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.